Hello, I'm Rimi, and this is Iran War Today, bringing you the latest developments surrounding the ongoing conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Tensions across the Middle East continue to rise as the conflict enters another dangerous phase. The United States has carried out its 13th consecutive night of military strikes inside Iran, targeting command centers, drone storage facilities, and strategic military infrastructure. According to U.S. officials, the operations were aimed at weakening Iran's military capabilities and limiting its ability to launch further attacks. Iranian media reported explosions in several areas, including locations linked to the Revolutionary Guard, with casualties also being reported. Iran responded by launching missile attacks against U.S. interests across the region, including targets in Jordan, Bahrain, and Kuwait. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps claimed responsibility for several operations and stated that additional retaliation would follow if American attacks continue. Iranian officials also threatened countries that allow U.S. forces to operate from their military bases, including the United Kingdom, warning that such facilities could become legitimate targets. Britain's Ministry of Defense responded by saying the UK is fully prepared to defend itself against any threat. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has adopted an increasingly aggressive stance, saying he is considering a much larger military operation against Iran. He argued that previous strikes had not placed enough pressure on Tehran and suggested that stronger action may soon be necessary. Reports indicate that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is expected to visit the White House, where discussions are likely to focus on military strategy and the next phase of the conflict. Despite weeks of airstrikes, Iran continues to demonstrate its ability to retaliate against U.S. military assets throughout the Middle East. Analysts believe this has forced Washington to explore additional military and diplomatic options. Discussions are reportedly taking place with European allies regarding maritime security and protecting international shipping routes in the Gulf region. A high-level meeting involving Western defense officials is expected to examine ways to safeguard strategic waterways while avoiding a broader regional war. The conflict has also increased concerns about Iran's military cooperation with Russia. U.S. officials believe Iran may still be receiving military equipment and technology despite ongoing attacks on its defense infrastructure. President Trump has warned both Russia and China against supplying weapons to Iran, reflecting growing concern in Washington over foreign support for Tehran's military capabilities. At sea, the situation is becoming even more dangerous. Yemen's Houthi movement, which is widely considered to be backed by Iran, has expanded its attacks by targeting Saudi oil tankers in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. The Houthis claim they are enforcing a naval blockade against Saudi Arabia and have warned that additional ships could be attacked. One Saudi tanker reportedly caught fire, although no casualties were confirmed. These attacks threaten one of the world's most important shipping routes, raising fears of major disruptions to global energy supplies. The Strait of Hormuz remains another critical concern. Together, the Strait of Hormuz and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait handle a significant share of global oil transportation. Any prolonged disruption could severely affect international trade, shipping, and energy markets. Global oil prices have already reacted sharply to the escalating conflict. Brent crude recently climbed above $100 per barrel before easing slightly. Economists warn that sustained high energy prices could increase transportation costs, raise food and consumer prices worldwide, fuel inflation, and delay expected interest rate cuts by central banks. Businesses, governments, and financial markets are closely monitoring developments as uncertainty continues to grow. Inside Iran, ordinary citizens are facing increasing hardship. Years of economic sanctions, high inflation, and the weakening national currency had already placed significant pressure on the population before the latest escalation. Now, repeated air raids and fears of a wider war have added to public anxiety. Reports from social media suggest that residents in several cities are hearing explosions almost every night, with many worried that military operations could spread further into densely populated areas. Iranian leaders continue to insist that they will resist American pressure regardless of the economic consequences. While supporters of the government back this position, many ordinary Iranians remain concerned about rising living costs, insecurity, and the possibility of a much larger conflict affecting cities across the country. Diplomatic efforts remain uncertain. Iranian officials have stated that they will not accept a ceasefire until their demands regarding the Strait of Hormuz are addressed. Tehran maintains that it should have greater authority over the strategic waterway, while the United States insists it must remain an open international shipping route. This disagreement remains one of the central obstacles preventing meaningful negotiations and has contributed to renewed fighting. Western governments are expected to hold further discussions on protecting maritime trade routes and preventing further escalation. However, European nations have made it clear that they are reluctant to deploy major naval assets while active combat continues. Analysts believe closer cooperation between the United States and its allies will be essential if the crisis continues to expand. As the conflict spreads beyond Iran and Israel to include regional militias, international shipping lanes, and global energy markets, fears of a wider Middle East war continue to grow. Military operations remain active, diplomatic negotiations have yet to produce results, and both sides appear determined to continue their campaigns. The coming days, including planned high-level meetings between U.S. and Israeli leaders, could prove decisive in shaping the next phase of one of the region's most serious security crises in recent years.